Here is another video requested by our viewers who wanted to know how you could raise a garage door header. And I'm going to provide you with a few different examples. However, I will leave it up to you and your engineer as to whether or not they will work for your project. Now, the first thing I want to point out is that the top plate here provides us with a continuous structural tie or connection to the other side. And when we raise our header, we might need to reinforce that along with any bracing that we might have for conventional roof framing with roof rafters or trusses. And since most gable roof trusses can be modified, I would assume that most of these scenarios will work for gable trusses also. However, I really don't have a good suggestion for other roofs like hip roofs where you just don't have the room to raise the header. So let's go ahead and start with my first example where I'm going to raise the header all the way up to the top of the roof rafter and then install a few structural straps to get a nice connection. And on this side, I'm going to have one type of design that might work for your project. On the other side, I'm going to have another. And I'm going to use hangers to connect the braces to the garage door header. You can use other building hardware also. And let's not forget that the roof sheathing, depending upon how it is used, can also provide us with another structural connection. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other side where I have repositioned the straps a little differently as another option that might work for your project. Another idea would be to add another board on the other side of your roof rafter, maybe something like this, to where you could also install some straps over it, maybe put a piece of 1/2-inch plywood in this area here so that you can get a nice connection with a nice long strap. And again, this side is different than the other side. You can always go back and take a look at that. And if you don't need to get into the roof rafter framing, maybe something like this will work here to where you can use some straps to create a nice structural connection all the way through. You would do the same thing here on the other side. However, your engineer might need a larger strap. Or we can add some shear panel and structural hardware that we would epoxy into the building foundation. Some hold downs here. And you might be dealing with a situation where you have existing hold downs in the foundation already, and that might affect some of the designs I've already provided you with. But again, another method, something to make the front wall a little stronger. And in our last example, I'm going to go ahead and reduce the width of the garage door so that I can raise it a little higher along with the rafter ties. There is a building code that suggests we can raise the rafter ties into the lower 1/3 space of the rafters. And another reason why you might choose to raise the rafter ties will be to actually have enough room to install a roll-up garage door. Otherwise, you might need to install a solid panel door or another type of a door if you cannot raise the ceiling. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and this is what I seem to have a difficult time getting through to a lot of my viewers. And that would be to avoid raising the garage door header if you can't raise the ceiling or the rafter ties in the garage. So if you're trying to park a larger vehicle in here and you can modify this wall here to fit a larger door, but you can't modify the ceiling, then it's not going to make a lot of sense to raise the garage door header in the first place. And of course, this method here will allow you to reuse the original garage door header. And don't forget that since we have reduced the span, we might be able to install a smaller header here that would allow you to go up a little higher if you needed it to. And again, we're connecting the bracing here with building hardware. And we could always fill this wall here with shear panel, go all the way up to the bottom of the roof sheathing, and even use structural hold downs here if we can. Keep in mind that you might need to modify the building foundation to install structural hold down bolts, especially if all you have here is a 4 or 5-inch slab without a footing underneath it. But I don't know why you would need to modify this structurally, because you're going to be increasing the strength by making the wall larger or by adding more shear panel to the wall without any hold downs. And in this example here, I needed to relocate this brace here. And if you do that, you could always lower it if possible, or have this brace right here sit on top of the garage door header, and then use some building hardware to connect the brace to the header. And a view of the rafter tie being raised. And you can use 16D nails to connect the rafter tie to the rafter. Next up, let's go ahead and head to the back of the building to provide you with a better view of the raised header along with the raised rafter ties. And I know some of you are thinking, well, what if I have a ceiling in here? Well, then you might choose to get rid of the ceiling and just use rafter ties or raise the ceiling. And if you raise the ceiling, you might need to do other modifications because you're going to be adding more weight to the roof rafters that might not have been designed for a ceiling. And that's about it for this topic. However, I am going to provide you with some more information about nailing the rafter ties to the rafters, how many nails might be required. So stick around and watch that video if you haven't seen it already. Here is another one of those rules that most home builders and framing carpenters aren't really aware of. And I don't think I knew about it until I was in my 30s. And it has to do with rafter ties or ceiling joist. And this would be with any connection to the roof rafter or any lapse that you're going to have between the ceiling joist or the rafter ties. And that's going to be the amount of nails required per connection. And according to one of the charts I found, this could be anywhere between 3 16D common nails and 51 16D common nails. And a common nail is larger than a sinker. And with that being said, the more nails you put into a piece of wood, the greater the chances it's going to split. And I really don't know where the thinking is behind something like this, but I can tell you that you can install the nails on both sides if you need to, and you can use larger lumber if you need to. If you need to put 51 nails into a roof rafter and a rafter tie or ceiling joist, you're probably going to need 2x12s for both of them. Now, how do you find out how many nails you're going to need? Simply go to your favorite search engine and type in the words ceiling joist and rafter tie connections. And it should take you to a chart. And in the chart, you're going to look for your rafter slope, how far apart the rafter ties or ceiling joist are going to be spaced, or their on-center spacing, then the live load or the snow loads, and then the span of the building. And to provide you a couple of examples, if I had a 3-12 roof pitch and I was going to space my rafter ties 48 inches on center for a regular roof without a snow load or a live load only on a building with a 12-foot or less span, I would need 10 16D common nails per connection. If that building was going to be between 12 and 24 feet, I would need 20 nails. And this is where it goes all the way up to 51 nails. If I was going to space my ceiling joist or rafter ties 48 inches on center, I would need 51 nails per connection if my building was going to be 36 feet wide. However, if I was going to space them 16 inches on center, on a 36-foot wide building, I could reduce that from 51 to 17 nails per connection. And hopefully that makes sense. However, if you have any problems using the information in this video, feel free to let us know in the comment area, and I'll see if I can provide you with a little more guidance on this subject.